Okay, let's move on to obedience. Obedience is when we act on an order, request, or law, or when we submit to instructions from an authority figure. When we go along with the influence of peers, that is compliance, but submitting to an authority figure is obedience. We're probably all familiar with Stanley Milgram's famous and highly controversial study about obedience. In the Milgram experiment, participants were told that they were in a study about punishment and learning, but they were actually in a study about when they would obey instructions from the experimenter. A group of people were told that they were randomly assigned to the teacher condition, where they had to recite pairs of words for the learner. The learner was actually part of the study, but the subject, the teacher, didn't know that. So when the learner got the word pairs wrong, the teacher, the person Milgram was actually studying, was supposed to shock the learner. At the beginning of the experiment, the teacher was given a mild electric shock to show them what it would feel like. And they saw the switchboard, the electric shock switchboard, and the switches on the electric shock machine were labeled from 15 volts, slight shock, to 375 volts, danger, severe shock, to 450 volts, XXX. So the learner was strapped into the electric shock machine in another room, at least as far as the teacher knew. And then the teacher started in another room, started reciting the word pairs, and the learner had to recite them. So when the learner got something wrong, the teacher administered an electric shock. Or, well, they thought they were administering an electric shock. In the other room, the learner would yelp or scream about how much it hurt as the voltage got higher and higher. And at one point, the learner would just be silent, as if they'd, passed out or worse. So throughout the experiment, the teacher would often turn to the experimenter and ask for reassurance that the learner was okay, or would tell the experimenter they didn't want to go on. When that happened, the experimenters had several standard responses. So the first prod, they said, please continue. Second prod, the experiment requires you to continue. The third prod, it is absolutely essential that you continue. And the fourth was, you have no other choice but to continue. So each time the teacher would say, I can't go on, the experimenters would go down this list of prompts. At the end of the study, about 2/3 of participants, 65% of participants, continued to the highest voltage, 450 volts. And in fact, during the original experiment, all the subjects continued to 300 volts. So obedience to authority is a clear pressure, even when we disagree with what that authority is asking from us.